Hello everyone, Lily here, and in Phantom Forces, stealth is non-existent. I had touched on this topic a little bit in my Why the AWS Sucks video, and I thought that I would get into it again, but this time in a bit more detail. So when we think of games that have good stealth mechanics, we might think of something like Metal Gear Solid or The Last of Us. Even though The Last of Us probably wasn't known for stealth, the stealth mechanics in that were still better than a lot of other games that we have. So those are games where stealth is really emphasized. It's a big part of the game. You can choose to take everyone out stealthily, or you can just run and gun if you'd like. It's up to the players, what they want to do. But when we have fast-paced shooter games like Call of Duty and Phantom Forces, these are games where really no one should look for any kind of quality stealth gameplay. And I feel like with Phantom Forces specifically, there is this weird false sense of stealth that is given off in Phantom Forces 2, and I'll get into why I think that. So if you are unaware, the July 4th update, or 2.0.4, that update, people probably don't even know it by the numbers, but I'll say it for anyone who's curious. I think that was the update that completely revamped suppressors. And so what that update did was it changed it so that any suppressor would, no matter what it was, would always hide the user off the radar. Which is nice, right? Now no one can find you on the radar. That sounds like a good deal to me. I don't know about you. Except for the big problem there is that not many people who play the game actually use the radar. And it's really quite obvious too when someone doesn't use the radar. There have been countless times where I'm on the radar and I'm aware of it. I'm aware that people can see me, so like you definitely have to play around that, but enemy players will just walk blindly into me. They had no idea I was there, even though they might have heard me shooting or I was on the radar. So it's a really weird thing. It's like, I don't know why people don't use the radar either. Like it's only helping you. Obviously, if you're just staring at the radar the whole time, you probably wouldn't gain much from that, but just figuring out where someone is important, and it could also help for if someone is trying to sneak up on you and you can see them on the radar, that is good too. I also think it's safe to say that if people actually did use the radar, that we would all be dying a lot more. So essentially what suppressors do is keep you hidden and safe and sound, off the radar from players who don't even use it anyways. Like, that doesn't seem very helpful to me. If they're just gonna run into me and, kill me, I don't need to worry about having a suppressor. I could understand if someone has a suppressor for a different reason, like maybe with their gun. There are some guns where a suppressor can reduce the amount of recoil that you have, or something like that, kind of stability kind of things. But other than that, it does decrease damage a bit. It does make it so that bullet drop is higher over range, so you do have to shoot more. It's even noticeable with some assault rifles. I've noticed when I put a suppressor on it, and then I would be shooting at not even like a really very far range, but I did notice having to aim up a bit more. And I don't know, I don't really find that to be like very useful or anything like that, just for staying off the radar. And also with suppressors, they don't completely silence the gun. So if someone doesn't see you on the radar, which most people don't use the radar, they could easily sound you out too if they have game sounds on. So even with that, it's not really that helpful. So if you're looking for stealth with suppressors, you're not really getting much out of it that you think you would be getting out of it. And then aside from weapon noises, sound also has a big role in the game. Walking and running make noises that the enemy can hear, and although to you, like your walking steps and your teammates' walking steps, they might be kind of quiet on your end, for the enemy player the sound is amplified, so it's much louder, and some of the materials in the game really give away positions. Like wood, especially the scaffolding on mall map, the wood parts on that is a big giveaway. Concrete and metal, like the metal escalators on Metro. Those are really easy to sound out, and you can hear if someone is running up it. Things like that. We also have some grass and sand materials in the game. There's 2 maps with sand, and grass is not so much, but they're definitely noticeable for hearing. And so even if you're just using a suppressor and you're off the radar, your walking noises can easily be picked up by other players who have their sound on. Just a side note here, game sounds, like using it to pick up on enemies, is so useful. I really recommend doing that if you find yourself dying a lot. Sounding out enemies can save your life sometimes. But, you know, back to stealth. If someone can just hear you running up to them so you can shank them in the back or something like that, they can easily prepare for it. I know that when I'm sniping, I love to camp. And so people, of course, they want to get revenge on you. So they'll come after you, right? So many times, countless times, just being able to hear the person coming to get me, coming to get revenge on me, I can prepare myself. I can hear where they're coming from, based on material and how far away it is and where the sound is coming from. And then I can prepare myself based on that. I could try and move away from them, or I could confront them face on. So it's really important. And if there's an experienced player, they probably will. I don't know how many people use sounds. I don't really hear much talk about it, but you know, it's something that is extremely useful. So I would imagine that people would try to use it at least. It's like the same kind of radar thing, where even though I'm making a lot of noise, people still will run blindly into you. So maybe it's not something that is used just like the radar. So along the kind of revenge thing is we also have the kill cam, or you know, some like the death cam, whatever you want to call it. So when you kill someone, they can get a spectator style view of live view of what you're doing, where you are is a big part of that. And they can see just for a few more seconds, and then they get sent to the respawn screen. So if you are trying to be stealthy and you kill someone, they get, I don't know how long the death cam actually is. I haven't actually timed it out, but you know, it's a pretty decent amount of time. You can definitely pick up on where their position is. So if the person you killed, you know, knows the map, they can come after you if you don't decide to change positions, and in which case you could use sound to your advantage to hear them coming, or you know, they can just see where you are. And they can see if you're moving positions because you want to be stealthy, you don't want to stay in one spot for a long time. They can see what direction you're headed in. They obviously can't see what new position you're going to, but they can still get a general idea of where you're going. And so to counter that, you would need to focus a lot on that time that the death cam takes. And so what you would do is you would try to mislead the person, but that just feels so extra. Like you're focusing on misleading the person, and you're focusing on, like, you run one way, and then after a few seconds, you probably, it's hard to tell how long it really is, and then after a few seconds, you run another way, just for one person. That just for one person. You have to change a whole positioning. What if you have a really good position? That's like, hey, you know, you're in a good position where you can shoot people. You kill a person. You want to be stealthy. Now you have to move. Yeah, and also moving positions can make you more vulnerable, especially if you're sniping and your secondary isn't that good or something like that, or if for some reason you're one of those people who runs with their sniper rifles out. You know, feeling like you need to change positions every time just for the sake of being stealthy can probably get you killed more times than you might like. So with everything that I've said here, I think that I have found the one way that anyone could truly be stealthy in Phantom Forces. It is perfect, I tell you. It will blow your freaking mind, dude. I'm telling you, man. It's revolutionary. Okay, so first, you would only be able to use melees. They don't put you on the radar when you kill someone, right? You can't shoot with it, so there's no way it could put you on the radar in the first place. And they don't make any noise. I know that you can hear the swing noise when you yourself are using it, but I haven't noticed the kind of swinging, slicing noise when someone else is using it. And I pay attention to the game sounds a lot. So that's a factor, right? That's pretty good. They can't hear you. Next thing you'd have to do is you could not sprint. And you couldn't even walk either. You would have to crouch walk or go prone the whole way to sneak up on someone. That way, you are making as little noise as possible and no one could hear you coming. You would be the most stealthy person in the game. It's perfect. There's totally nothing wrong with doing this. I tell you, this is the new game meta right here. I found it. I cracked the code. I found the missing link. So you can probably see from this method that it is just extremely impractical. It would make no sense for someone to do that in the game. They would just die every time. The closest that you could get to replicating that kind of thing without, like, not being able to move essentially is just running around with a melee. But even then, people can still hear you coming. You have to get close to the people. And from what I've seen in game, I don't think that I've ever seen people really do well by running willy-nilly with a melee. It doesn't seem very practical. They usually have the same amount of deaths as they do kills, if not more. So it doesn't really make sense to me. They're also just easy to kill if you're like not like 5 studs away from them. You can, you're further away from them. You can kill them before they even reach you. However, this is just my opinion. I don't really think there's much stealth at all in Phantom Forces. Based on what I've seen, I've played the game for a few years and I've never really noticed anything that could be considered to be kind of stealthy either. So let me know what you think. Do you think that there is even stealth in the game? If so, why? I'd be curious to know what you think stealth actually is. But yeah, that's all I've got, and thank you for watching.